This was a series that I was getting excited about when I heard that it was announced. This was supposed to be the unused script for the death of the family if the voters had chosen for Jason Todd to live. However, going through issue 1, I got to say that I'm not 100% sure that that's really what this is. Because it even says, from the DC Vault, death in the family, Robin lives. Let's get into it. So I don't remember a lot from when I read this. I'll be honest. Halfway through the book, I just sort of tuned out because I was just so freaking bored. We open up. Now, spoilers, because it's hard to talk about this story without really spoiling a lot of stuff. So if you don't want to know what happens, pause this video, go back, read the comics, and come back. And you're back. So something happens to Mr. J finally that should have happened many years ago. And we get into a whole lot of talking heads. Now, before we talk about everything, let's talk about who made this. This is J.M. DeMatteis doing the writing, Rick Leonardi doing the art, Rico Renzi doing the colors, Taylor Esposito doing the lettering, everyone else working on the book, and Batman was created by Bill Finger with Bob Kane, and then here's everyone else on the book. So there's news reports about what happened to the Joker, and it says, there are events that freeze time, that ripple through the collective consciousness of a city, a nation, a world, bringing life to a sudden standstill. For many, the assassination was one of those events. As if people across the globe, even those thousands of miles from Gotham City who's never encountered him, breathed a collective sigh of relief. Now, I will say it's kind of poignant because it shows, I keep wanting to say Dick Grayson, Jason Todd here, struggling with the fact that he's survived, but he went through this super traumatic event and all the post-traumatic stress that he's going to be going through. Now, even though in this story, Batman did save him, we see that Jason is pulling further and further away from Bruce and his family, even Alfred. And I think that's really what kind of killed it from me, because if you go back and read Under the Red Hood, and Jason has the Joker at gunpoint, and he goes, I'm not talking about the Riddler, I'm not talking about Mr. Freeze, he goes, just talking about him, and only him. And Batman says something to the degree of, don't you think I want to do that every time I go up against him? But if I did, there'd be no coming back, because then essentially I would become a killer and I would kill all of these villains. And that's kind of where the split in the modern DC continuity happens, why Jason's more of an outlaw, hence Red Hood and the Outlaws, or Red Hood Outlaw, and why him and Bruce butt heads, because they are so much alike, but with polar not personalities, but you guys get what I'm saying. They're essentially the same but different, like yin and yang, and that's why they work so well, and why they both look up to Dick, because he's sort of, and Alfred, because they're sort of like the anchor point of these two. So with that said, with Jason saying, why didn't you kill the Joker, it's frustrating to go in and see that Bruce is actually trying to make it a point to reach out to him, and he's just pulling away saying, you don't know what's wrong with me. And then it just very much feels like he's reaching out to you, man. But I do get it. PTSD is a bitch. And I'm not going to undermine that, because anybody that's going through that shit, it's anyone's own personal hell, and just it takes time. I get that. And so here they get the middleman that I was just talking about, Dick, to reach out, because it says Jason respected him, admired him, and yes, was jealous of him too. Dick, after all, was the first Robin. In Jason's eyes, he was the favorite son, the shining example he could never live up to. But he was also the only other soul on the earth who understood what it was to be Batman's partner, to go out there at his side night after night, facing the unimaginable. So they walked, they talked, not about anything significant, certainly not about what happened with the Joker in Ethiopia. No, they bantered, as brothers do, even laughed. And when they were done, Dick was certain Jason had turned a corner, that with a little time and care, the boy would be his old self again. He was, of course, spectacularly wrong. So, again, I've only read issue 1, and I'm hoping beyond hope that they're not going to turn out to make Jason a villain in this what-if story, because that would just be a slap in the face of everything that had come before. Like they're just undoing history at that point. It's like, no, let's not do that. And again, people are gonna say, well, this is a what if story. I get that. But the fact that it's on the printed page. So we see here Jason trying to go out, dress up, and prove that he is able to go back and fight. But the Scarecrow shows him otherwise. And he has one hell of a nightmare about what happened to him. Batman comes to save him, and it only makes Jason loathe him more. And so I think that's what really kind of chaps my hide overall about this book is, again, I'm not, you guys understand, I'm not trying to diminish what PTSD can do. I get that. I don't know. It felt like this book just rubbed me the wrong way. And I've seen some other people kind of say, what the hell was this? And getting away from the story, you go back and read the original Death of the Family, the art was clean. It was nice. It was for that time. And the books were always in that degree. So coming back and looking at this, I'm not going to say that the artwork was horrible. Don't get me wrong. But for trying to go back and redo the Death of the Family, I wish that they would have gotten someone that was a little more clean line. Now, don't get me wrong. I love that it doesn't look like, not, what am I trying to say? Not digital art, like digital color where everything looks more like clean and polished. They kind of do give it that old school feel, but it just has this disjointed look. Like if you look at the Joker, just the lines and the jaggedness, just for me, does not feel like it services the story. That's my personal opinion. I mean, if you enjoyed it, cool. But for me, I was looking for something that would at least really try to homage the artwork of that time. I can't remember. I don't think it was Jim Aparo at the time. If you guys can help me remember, my brain's just out in left field. But if you look here, just see how everything looks sort of, I guess, like Archer from FX is what it kind of looks like to me. Just these heavy lines for me just do not do it service. The faces look dirty and a little disjointed. So I was really hoping for something that was really more of a nod back to the Batman 80s, because back then the lines were clean and it was just always enjoyable to look at. And also, again, this book, I think, going back to the story, I think what kills me is it doesn't feel like a straightforward narrative. This is a third-person narration. I think it's supposed to be this counselor that's brought in to help with Jason. And I just wish instead it would have just played out like doing the issue, what was it, 426 back in the day, where at the end it said, call if you want Jason Todd to live or die. And then the next issue, it has Batman holding him in his arms. And the one that we know is the tragic art. But I remember seeing that there was a rejected version where if you lived, it shows the same overhead kind of Dutch angle where Batman has his head tilted up and he's smiling. He goes, he's alive. They didn't even use that in this book. So to just sort of throw that by the wayside for this, I don't know. This just is not doing it for me. I'm going to continue reading the books. I grabbed all but I think issue 2. So we'll continue to go through this, and I hope that my opinion changes, because just going through this third-person narration and you're hoping for certain things and it's not there just kind of feels like a nothing burger, in my opinion. But if you guys have enjoyed what you've seen or you're curious about it, please first and foremost go and support your local comic shop and grab this series. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate it taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little bat bell, next subscribe, that was I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talk with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.